thank you everyone for joining us today, and welcome to day 5 of the Education Summit 2022. We're celebrating today as Student Support Day, so we'll be running you through sessions where we will be discussing a number of student support services. So in today's session in specific, we'll be looking at the COVID-related visa concessions that have been announced to benefit international students. So to start off, I'd like to introduce our presenter for today, Mr. Dharminder Singh, a registered migration agent at Aussizz Group, Canning Vale, Perth. He's well versed in immigration law and practice with over 13 years of experiences and has wonderful insights and success to share with us today. So welcome, Dharminder. And before we do start off though, if Charlene could just switch over to the picture. So perfect. All right, so our experts today will be waiting to take your questions. So please go ahead, post your questions in the chat box, and we'll go ahead and answer them at the end of the session. Now, and what is more exciting news personally, we have bumper cash prizes that can be claimed to those who leave the most descriptive reviews of the sessions on a Facebook post, which I will be linking to the chat box right now. Just a second. Yep. You can go ahead, click on that link, and let us know what you do think about the Education Summit 22. Go ahead, tag your friends, as well as use the hashtags hashtag Aussizz Education Summit 2022 and hashtag Aussizz Group in the comment section. Furthermore, some of our more participative audience members are eligible for free giveaways, which include some of our prime services such as PTE and IELTS coaching, PR consultations, etc. So once again, thank you for joining us. And Mr. Dharminder Singh, the floor is all yours.
Wow, here we go. What a auspicious time, the day 5 of our little summit. So for those who are actually actively listening to us, thank you very much. It is that time of the day. And very good morning from Perth. And today we're going to be, in fact, talking nothing else but what really happens with regards to if you are an international student and if you are faced with any seemingly difficult situation in terms of any latest policies, any updates, any concessions, which there are plenty of us to go through today. And we're going to go into that. And obviously, you have to be an international student because this will really be more particular for you. And might I also add, if you are a parent or a concerned one, because you're the ones who have been feeding and clothing and putting and paying all the fees for your kids, and you might want to know a little bit more about these concessions and stuff like that. And perhaps if you're tuning in, a very good morning for you at the same time. So without further ado, we're going to go into that. Keep your questions, which I'm sure there are going to be plenty. And my moderator, who I'm sure you've just heard earlier on, will feel through some of the questions and we'll jump into as best as I can. So seemingly in the next 20-25 minutes, I'll go through several slides that have been prepared. And if you have any questions, hold them and do what I'm doing. Have a cup of coffee at the same time, and then we'll go through that. So let's just go into slide number 2. I believe I will be able to go into the next one. I think we've already spoken about this. Hopefully you are familiar. And what are the recent visa changes? Now, lots to read. I don't want to arm you with anything crazy, but unfortunately, if you don't read some of this stuff that's in front of you, you're never going to understand that. So my way of doing things is you're going to see a lot of information. So I'm just going to pick up bits and pieces that are really, really good, and then we'll jump into that. So if you're still into this, when I say recent changes, I mean, today is the 4th, so don't feel that as if, oh, something was just announced yesterday and it's not on this PowerPoint. This PowerPoint was prepared, about say at least within the last 4 or 5 days. So everything here is absolutely current. So if any information is not as recent as anything else, apologies in advance, right? So let's just go into that. So one of the first things that they directly mentioned is, yes, we've had a lockdown for 2 years or thereabouts. A lot of things have happened. A lot of people have been affected, displaced, meaning that you were on a visa before, you are unable to come back and you are stuck, or you finish a course of study. A lot of things are happening with regards to this dreaded thing called COVID. And you notice it's COVID-19. We are in 2022, by the way, so a lot of stuff to cover, right? Now, what they've really done, first and foremost, is to say this. Now, the first thing that's really exciting is a lot of students finish their studies and through no fault of theirs were unable to come back because of COVID. And the duration of their 485, the temporary grad visas, was spent somewhere else as opposed to staying in Australia. So what the first concession has been sort of put together is this thing called the replacement visa. A lot of talk went into that, a lot of discussion towards when and how and what have you. So that's been introduced, which is good. In other words, that, and we'll go into further information at the same time into who is eligible for that, and what point in time, if you perhaps held a visa in 2020 and then till when, and if you're within that bracket, then it applies to you. So just hold on for a while. You're looking at this first screen only, by the way. So we're going to go into the nuts and bolts of who in specific gets this replacement visa. Initially, it was thought that you could apply for that replacement visa in June, but it's been brought forward till the 18th of Feb, which is coming anytime soon. So just be aware of that. What does it say down here? Okay, the rest of it is, as I'm sure you have reread through. So I'm just going to jump to the next one, right? Now, what and how does this apply to the additional measures, right? So the additional measures is that basically it allows the temporary grad visas to stay on a little bit more, okay? Because why? Because you've studied long enough. You want to chill out a little bit. You want to work, or you want to perhaps complete your job ready program, or you perhaps are already working and you need to work. You need to meet different streams to try to get your skills assessment done, and so on and so forth, to find various options for your 190, 491, and 189, and all the rest of it. So that's the reason why you're allowed to stay on a little bit longer, okay? And another thing that they've done with the recent announcement is that previously, you needed to, let me just move this screen, this thing, I can't see the next one here. Oh, if I jump into the next one, it's interesting. Hang on, if I go into the last one here. Where was this screen here? Let me just come back to this again. Okay, we're back again. I just couldn't see that part there. Okay, so, hang on. Yeah, I wanted to see this screen again. So, really what they've done is that it's a temporary concession based on people who were affected and impacted in this period of time. So it's not a permanent thing, I might want to say. However, some of the stuff is permanent, and we'll tell you what that is, and especially the part where it says your period of stay, if you are a master's student, as opposed to where previously you were able to get this grad visa for 2 years, so now they've given that to 3 years, which is, I think, fair, which is brilliant. And for some of you who are also eligible to have another 1 year extension because you studied and worked and lived in a regional area, so you got another 1 year coming. So that's 4 years. That's pretty good. So just be aware of that. The other part here is that removal of qualification assessment. So previously you had to do that. We'll go into detail about that shortly, which is the bottom corner down here. Temporary continue. Okay, now I'll just jump to the next one. Now, I did say that I'll go into reading something, and then I'll specifically, tell you when that temporary visa replacement is actually applicable. And in this particular instance, it's applicable from the 18th of Feb. Now, if you're wondering, how do I go about that? Just relax, because the information is really not there yet on the 𝐸𝐸 side. As and when it becomes available, we'll tell you how to go about that at the same time. But at this stage, what we wanted to share with you today was to just let you know that it is available. They've just brought that forward because there is a tsunami of students and people who have already had visas and who want to then come back, and they want to inject and another little boost into the whole economy by coming back and doing what they have to do. And so that's the reason why they brought this thing forward. So what does it say? Right, that was the period I was telling you about, right? So basically, if anyone who is from the 1st of Feb 2020 and you had the visa, in other words, and you were outside, obviously, and between the 1st of December 2021, which is just not long ago, this essentially is really applicable to you, which is really, really awesome. I've got lots of clients who, no fault of theirs, happened to be granted the visa and then traveled offshore and then got caught into this window, and they've never been able to come back, and that's pretty much a tragedy of Maha proportions, right? So they are the ones now who are eligible for that from wherever you are. I think you know who I'm talking about. You're already in touch with me, so we are already processing or putting things in process together to get this thing going for you for the replacement visa. Now, the part I like here is that replacement visa will allow the same length of stay as the original visa, obviously, regardless of how long was spent in Australia on the original visa, which is brilliant, okay? So application can be made offshore and onshore, which is excellent again. Of course, very conveniently, application charge still applies. There's nothing free yet. Now, again, a little bit more detail. I think we've already covered that. I want to just mention from here, normal circumstances, of course, you know, you obviously, you only get ever one chance to apply for your temporary grad visa. So this is just a little, hence why the concessions that they've actually put together. Ooh, I like that part. It is expected that it will benefit approximately 30,000 current or former temporary grad visa holders. That's pretty awesome. Okay, so disregard the little last line where it says could be made from 1st of July. So no, originally 1st of July, like I said to you, but they brought that forward to the 18th of Feb, which is really good. Now, what is the other one here, which is the temporary grad visa, which we're still on? Let's look at the first part here. It says that moving forward, so the temporary grad visa, so originally if you are, you know, doing a trade course of some kind and you finish your studies, you were eligible to get it for 18 months. So now they've done that for 2 years, which is brilliant again. And that's a permanent thing. And so let's look at that as in, this measure is temporary and then permanent in the sense that if you're within this period of time and you're getting it, but they might change this at any point in time as they see fit. The way they've done it from 18 to 24, they might bring it back to 18 again. This is what I'm trying to say. So the measure is immediate, which is good. And what is the temporary removal or occupation nomination? Yeah. So for some of you who, which I don't think that many are affected, but if you are, where you had to, when you were applying for your grad work stream, if you needed to nominate an occupation and all that kind of stuff, so that has been removed right now. So where you could not have applied and been eligible for the 485, you needed to do this, you know, skills assessment and what have you. So that has been removed. So again, it doesn't really concern you that much. So if you are concerned, I'm sure you're going to pose a question shortly. Okay, I did mention that I'll go into detail, and this is for those of you who perhaps wanted to read as well as hear me. This is some of the information that you're probably getting. I'm just looking through all these bullet points, and I'm going to pull out one or two that I think would be worth discussing. Okay, they've removed that concession. Okay, this change will right. Okay, so again, you notice at the last bullet point it says will apply for the financial year 2022 to 2023. And no one knows precisely why and if anything is going to change, and what is could it be a knee-jerk reaction to really what's happening with all those people who are outside, which we already know is 30,000 students. And if they're going to come back, how it's going to impact, how the economy is going to open up, and how the existing students are going to be fed into the larger, you know, if you want to call community. So all of those things will make a difference into these measures, which are, like I said, concessions. Okay, so don't get all excited about the fact that it's going to be a permanent thing and start making plans accordingly on those regards. So this is more really catered towards those people who were unable to sort of come back in the time when they actually had their 485. Let me see, what am I talking about here? Yeah, okay, graduate work stream, cool. Master's coursework will increase permanently, so we know that. Okay, right. So in other words, so if you're a temporary grad, like I've already mentioned, so if you're studying your master's by coursework, so this is really, really good. So because you can now apply and get to stay for 3 years, which is really important if, for instance, you were studying something that was not on the migration occupation list and you needed to work 1 year post-qualification. So you have the opportunity now to work in that field, get the necessary experience, and thereafter go about doing your skills assessment. And then after that, obviously finding out whatever the streams are for your PR pathway to sort of latch on to. So this extra 1 year is really, really helpful, all right? This measure will provide, obviously, a strong economy, blah, blah, blah. Let's see. Okay. Okay, it's an immediate application, right? So we've already lodged a couple of 485s, and they've actually been given a 3 years grant, which is really not bad. So that means that it's quite immediate. What are we talking about here? The measure will be, okay, so some of it is there. Visa updates, I'll just jump straight into that. Now, this has been quite interesting. A lot of people have called in and said, oh, we read here and we saw this and my friend said this and that and the other. Now, the fee waiver is really people who were, you know, for reasons best known to them, who are unable to do something because they were affected by COVID. So really, the fee waiver does apply if you wanted to do a further student visa application, all right? Now, and it says down there, on or after 1st of Feb 2020, okay? And if you couldn't complete the course, things have happened beyond your control. But you need to be able to provide, you know, to make sure that it's actually, you know, it's eligible and it does affect you and you're not doing something outside of the box, okay? So don't just think that, you know, this thing will be applied to you, because you really got to meet some very specific criteria at the same time. Because if you don't go and get the right consult, and if you just did it on your own, you might get a root shock. So just don't try to do something around. Before I go into that, hang on, I want to just go back into this again. Deferred. Okay, so some of you have deferred your studies, and you thought that by deferring, you could I'm choosing the right words down here, because if you deferred it on good solid grounds, then your case really becomes very strong. But if you deferred it because you wanted to work and you wanted to do something else and you were not really sick and all that, don't do it, is what I wanted to say. Sorry, I was just reminded me of a student. Now, I'm going to talk next about how a lot of you might have a lot of questions in terms of what are the current conditions, how do you come in, what vaccinations is valid, what sort of checks, when do I fly in, I'm on an existing student visa, I still have part of my student visa, or I've just been granted, or I'm about to, and all of that part of people who are in that particular cohort. This really applies to you in the next few slides, because we've taken into really what's available from the Department of Immigration, short for 𝐸𝐵. So it will tell you where and how you need to go about that. Some countries are preferred countries where Australia is concerned. If you're coming in from there, there's a little reciprocal understanding that you're allowed to come in with not minimal checks. You still have to go through the necessary checks. This is really what this is all about. A bit dry, but it's very important that you actually see this, because that's really where the department, you know, as of December 15, are going to really look into that more and more. Can I just quickly say where I am sitting? I'm in Perth, Western Australia, which, as most of you know, has been the state that has been really most closed in and whatnot. So a lot of this stuff, for some students who may then perhaps think, hey, hang on, but I want to come back to Western Australia. How do I do? Do I need to then come to any part of Australia and then make my trip back? So all of those sort of tricky questions, I'm sure I'm going to get them. I will try to answer them as best as I can, but just be mindful that those are the kind of things that will really need to follow. So the additional time frame for third-party checks really is all about that, right? So what does it say down here? Okay, I think whilst listening to me all this while. I'm sure you've read through a few bits and pieces down there. Next, it says if you are doing in line with health and territory medical examinations. Okay, so now a lot of you were asked to do your medicals. You had to go to do BUPA. You had to do a couple of things. And then you get funny messages like, oh, I can't get through because my appointment is this and that, the other. My waiting times are extended and what have you. Just be mindful that the department is aware of that. And when that happens, you absolutely not in any sort of way impacted, because as long as you communicate back to the department and says, hey, this is my receipt, this is my proof, I'm trying to do this, and I'm able to access this in certain period of time. So where you were previously given 28 days, maybe you've been given now, say, 60 or 90 days. So things are happening in that regard because of backlogs, right? So just sort of don't think that just because you've been given a time and if you've gone over, that you know something is bad is going to happen. No, it doesn't happen that way. Okay, offshore student visa holders. If it says down here, if the circumstances which permitted the grant of the student visa no longer exist, as in you're no longer holding a valid enrollment, the visa may be considered for cancellation. And education providers and agents are encouraged to contact those students to remind them that the visa obligations is that. Okay, so really what that really means is you have the visa, you're like, oh, I'm all ready to come in, and for various reasons you are unable to. Don't just think that, oh, you still have that. You kind of do, but if your enrollment is no longer valid, the visa is also no longer there at the same time. So it is due for cancellation. So whoever your education agent is, if you're offshore, and if you went through Aussizz, or if you went through anyone that seemingly is aware of the latest stuff, please be mindful of that. Please, seek clarifications about that, because there's a lot of time spent waiting, getting the necessary visa, and then to reapply again. Mind you, because of all those other students who are coming in, you might be pushed back in the queue again. Again, not fun situation to be in, but just be mindful of those little things. You know what? Don't be afraid to ask the question. Don't be afraid to ask a question with your agent or whoever that you're dealing with. Calling the Department of Immigration is one thing, because they might not give you as much information as, say, perhaps those who are dealing on a daily basis. So I was being very polite to the email. I was going to say something else, but no, I'm not going to do that. Now, a lot of information down here. I needed to put this information down there. Why? Because I know I'm dealing with students. Some students love to read, and hence why my job is to put it out there. At the same time, trying to see if I can pick out one or two things down here. Thing that really stands out for me is, okay, all right, January before the Power Cancel Visa. Okay, now, what are we talking about here? All of this thing here is really the grounds for visa cancellations. Now, canceling a visa, as we've already mentioned to you just then, is a big deal. They won't go about canceling it if they really didn't have enough grounds to hear from you. Now, if you think that your grounds for cancellation or not canceling a visa is really good, make sure you put that and make that be known from the outset, not just at the very last juncture, because they don't care. Because they're just handling, they don't care. They're not bad, they're not mean. They've just got backlogs. You're dealing with crazy times. You're dealing with unprecedented numbers, resources. All of these things really do impact their decision making in terms of yes or no, or whatever the case is, right? So, okay, now the border arrangement for international students. Oh my God, what are they? So here we go. All this stuff about double vax and what have you, as I was saying earlier on, where it was originally supposed to open on the 1st of December, now we moved back, and that's kind of history right now, but 15th of December is really when it applies to both primary and secondary visa holders. I know these are all those categories of people who were affected. Now, without needing to apply for travel exemption. Don't even want to talk about any other situations if you are exempt from travel, and if you have a situation, make sure you get that checked and mentioned very, very clearly. So let's see. So yeah, I mean, you keep hearing this number all the time. 160,000 international students offshore already hold visas and can travel from 15th of December. Now, let's say you are one of them 160,000 students, and you wanted to be a few of you, not all of you, obviously wanted to come back to WA. So this is the question that keeps coming up all the time. I'm an international student. I study in Western Australia in one of those universities or colleges, and I want to come back here. So the goalpost keeps changing all the time. And at one stage, they were saying that, you know, even though you are who you are, which you know who I'm talking about, and if you wanted to come back to WA, you have to come through other parts of Australia, and then meeting all the requirements of a quarantine and what have you, and then you have to apply and get an exemption to say, oh, look, this is the reason why you need to be coming back here. So you can't fly in directly. So what was originally supposed to be February 5th to be this tomorrow, in fact, and the borders was going to be open, so that has been indefinitely closed, and we will announce that soon as to when it fully opens and whatnot. But it's tough to answer this part here, because some people are saying, oh, you need to come down to any parts of Western Australia, then apply a G2G and make an exemption, and then they will review that on top of the 22,000 exemptions that's already in the pipeline, and then decide who sort of comes through. So as of 1st of February till as we speak, all those 22,000 are actually being reviewed again to see whether were they all okay. A lot of people are affected to coming back to WA. I'm speaking only of Western Australia for now, if I may, because I am from there and I want to just talk about that very shortly. So you can come back, serve through the time from another state, and make sure that you've got good enough grounds in terms of your applying for your exemptions to say that, you know, your course is going to start, this is going to happen, and you've done through your vaccination, you've done through your quarantine, and then you seemingly will be welcomed with open arms. Okay, right. But you still need to remember, students or any kind of any case, you need to remember these are some of the steps that they've already put together. So before coming through, so you have this passenger declaration, which is supposedly what you need to fill up, you know, I think 72 hours before you actually jump on board. It's not saying that you have a visa and then you can come through. This is an additional step that you really have to be mindful of. Dry as it might be, if you've been listening to this for the last, 15, 20 minutes, be aware, this steps is what you really need to remember. You need to provide health information, including in your vaccination cert. Be fully vaxxed. I think we'll go into what are some of those TGA approved and recognized vaccines in the next few slides. And holding obviously a valid visa more than anything else, and PCR test. Wow, now that's pretty interesting. So 3 days before your flight schedule. Not fun times, isn't it? You know, 2022, and here we are, the year of the tiger, and things are still happening that we got to do this and that, the other, but those are the steps, okay? Again, a lot of information down there, but pretty much this is what I wanted to just cover just now in that little schematic way. But from this bullet points here, if you're traveling with kids, or if you wanted to come down, which, you know, which you do, it says down here, children under 12 and those who are medically exempt from COVID can access the same arrangements as fully vaccinated travel. So just be mindful of that, because some of you do have kids, and then, you know, they're all on your added onto your visas, and they're traveling. So these are some of the arrangements that you need to remember. Okay. Hang on, it says down here, provide proof. Okay, I think this is self-explanatory. Student visa processing. Now, student visa processing has continued while the borders have been closed. Exactly. So that next line, free student visas for offshore students for the next 8 weeks. That has been announced as of 1st of November 2021. Okay, so anyone who, presuming, wanted to still come and study as of now, they've asked this question to us, oh, are they granting the student visas right now? Well, they're not preventing you from making the application. They are reviewing when and how the easing of these borders to coincide with the grant of a particular student visa, because they don't want to have additional problems down the line where they've granted and then you're unable to make this entry, and then logistically and administratively there's all these other problems associated with the initial grant. So I think that's the reason why personally, after all these years, I'm thinking that's why there is a backlog. So be mindful of that. So they are encouraging more than ever before now to go ahead, make the applications, because the processing times now, I think is be bringing it back to speed a little bit more as what it was before. Okay, so you still will be subjected to some backlogs in terms of where you're going to do your medicals, and if you're from a country that requires biometric testings, then wherever you are, you know how much a backlog there is from that country before it comes back down here. So it's a little bit of a domino effect from wherever you are. Just be mindful of that and just be patient about it. And no one really, I mean, I've passed those years of doing online studying and whatnot. Nobody likes to do and enroll and pay an expensive amount of money in a course, and then you're just doing online. You want to come down. You want to enjoy the part of being a student or in Australia, which is really where, you know, the joy of being a student down here is to not just do online studying, is to actually be physically present down here. So I get your grief, I get your pain, but at the same time, just be mindful that these are the things that you're dealing with right now, okay? Again, I just wanted to put this information out there just in case you wanted to read that, but I wanted to go into the gist of some of the information. And it says down here, we are unable to grant the visa if the COE is not current and active. So don't just say, oh, I had a COE, was issued from such and such time, but that now no longer is, and I'm running out of time or whatnot. That doesn't apply. Still the same rules of engagement with regard to where the department is concerned. They need to make sure that everything else is concise, is accurate, and accordingly, before they apply any funny exemptions to you. Okay, so don't just make your own rules as you go along, all right? Vaccines and status, which is I was telling you earlier on, the TGA approved vaccines, all this, you know, you've got AstraZeneca, the Pfizer's, the places in which if you're from the biotech, those are the ones that are actually accepted. Don't come up with your own homegrown, you know, medical concoction, you know, try to follow this at the same time, and these are the only ones who are approved. And if you come up with something else, then you basically will be denied pretty much. So fully vaxxed double dose is really what they're saying. You just can't say, oh, I've got one, but I've got another one scheduled somewhere else. That's just not how it applies. It's literally two. Now, foreign vaccination certificates. This becomes very interesting. There's been a lot of talk about this, or what's accepted overseas and what's not accepted down here. I think they're coming to some sort of a universal rule down here. This is what they are going to go by, and I don't mind reading through this down here. Handwritten certificates are acceptable. Now, how good is that? You know, if you're from a place that they're actually doing that, still well done. But the vaccination certificate must at least show, as the name as it appears, date of birth and the brand and what have you, and the full course of immunization. Very important, right? Now, certificates must be in English, obviously, or unless you're accompanied by a translation. I think that's pretty clear. Again, most foreign vaccinations. Yeah, this is cool. I don't want to keep this any longer. Australia's position will be okay. As tough as it might be, it's really a no-nonsense rule. No? I mean, I think Australia, more than anywhere else, there has been just very protective for obvious reasons, and I'm not going to comment anything else about that, but I just wanted to say those are the rules. So just abide by them. Make sure that you got this. Make sure you got that. It's very cumbersome. It's very oh my God, I need to have this and that, the other. Just prepare them. Literally, if you are asked and stopped and you get there earlier and show them 3 hours before, and I got this and I got that, make sure you got all of that, because you will be turned around. You will be said, no, you'll be denied entry, because they're not going to take any nonsense. And if you want to take 𝐬𝐞𝐬𝐢𝐿 Djokovic as an example, should I dare say, no one is above the law. I mean, if you think you've done all of that, and if you followed everything else and you provided all this due information, good luck to you. You can always come down here and not only study, you can play tennis too. Pre-departure PCR testing. So I think that's what some people have been wanting to know. I can't wait to jump into the questions to see what sort of questions we actually got, but I want to try to finish my slides. And okay, this is serious stuff, yeah? This is dry, but serious stuff. Now, countries, jurisdiction exempt from PCR pre-departure testing requirements are subject to change based on local conditions. Okay. All right, I didn't press next, but it went next, but that's all right. Okay, wow, I didn't touch anything, but somehow we've gone into another zone. All right, so that just went into a Bermuda Triangle just now. I didn't touch anything, but things happen. This is why this becomes a biosecurity hazard. No, I'm just joking, right? So my IT fellows are having fun. Okay, so that's good. Digital passenger declaration. This is pretty cool, right? So this is where you, we'll call for DPD for short. So if you're one of them who have all of this thing, this information is all actually, in synchronized together with the Australian travel declaration part. So if you are having one of these, please use this, because it's really, really very good for everybody else. Doesn't apply to you. Who do not qualify. Okay, this part here, the unvaccinated student who don't qualify as fully vaccinated. Internet caps. People, let me see what is important down here. Okay, I want to just read this part here. Students who don't meet vaccination requirements must continue to follow the current border processes when coming to Australia. They will still be required to apply for an exemption from outgoing travel restrictions to, okay. Serious stuff, guys. All I can say is serious stuff. So in other words, if you need to apply for and be granted an individual travel exemption, you better do so. Current exemptions for unvaccinated students for various reasons. Student in the final 3 years of study, medical with evidence of confirmed placement, okay, in a hospital, well, those are the travel exemptions for them. Students in the final 2 years of study of dental, nursing, so pretty much, wow, pretty much everybody, just no two rules about it, okay? Again, for more information, if you really wanted to hear from the horse's mouth, these are the links to go into. These are the places that probably will have the latest news as far as, what suddenly becomes breaking news from perspective of what you need to have and what you don't. Visa processing updates. Questions that get asked quite often is, I've launched these, how long will it take? What do I have to do? Can we accelerate these? Can we call the department? Can we do this? Basically, you really need to help us to help you, okay? If you've made sure that everything else is decision ready, is front loaded, all good, nothing funny is happening, I don't see a problem why they should not, they will go beyond the normal processing time, but they will have to follow through some medium at the same time to get this thing through, okay? I think we've covered this in our earlier slide, just in case you wanted to look at this again, and there is a slide. I believe the next slide says, thank you for tuning in and listening. Dry as it might be, before the moderator jumps in with some questions, I just wanted to say, I mean, it's hard to sort of feel some of the questions when I was preparing this information. I had to go and get a lot of this stuff together and says, all right, this is latest, this is latest. Then I thought to myself, my captive audience, wherever they might be, they probably have questions, and fingers crossed they do. And when they do, I really want to probably take this next few minutes to answer them as best as I can. And I hope that slide has been some sort of informative to you in some shape or form. Very dry topic to talk about, you know what I mean? But important nonetheless. Okay, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Dharminder. It was a great session. I guess definitely the times we live in as of now, it's always good to keep up to date with what's happening. It's quite crucial information. But yeah, just on that as well, we do have quite a few questions for you. So yeah, quite a few. We have 4 at the moment. So I'm just start off with Isha, who herself has 3. Isha has been quite an active participant during the entire education summit. So I'll just go ahead and get that to you now. So her first question was, can someone apply for PR under the criteria of 190 and 491 as an occupational health and safety advisor or as a health promotion manager? And she also tells us that they're under the short-term skill list.
You know, every time we do a presentation like that, somebody's going to ask you a question that is not related to my topic, which is COVID, exemptions and concessions. And the first taxi that we get off the rank is one saying about, oh, this and that, the other. Very concise question, I must say. Now, I have to put that thinking cap of a migration agent to say, oh, yes, this is your occupation. And look at the question down here. Can one apply per criteria 190, 491 as an occupational health and safety advisor or as a health promotion manager? Okay, now, Occ health and safety, I'm talking about WA list. I don't know which list he's referring to, so I can only refer to the 190 and 491 because there's all these 6 other states for me to look into. I don't know all their states list, but in WA, you are on that list at the moment. And it is a short-term list, obviously. I don't see a reason why, but getting yourself to be assessed as an Occ health and safety advisor is what you really need to get into first, because without that, which you probably will need to demonstrate post-qualification experience. Now, if you don't have that, then you really can't apply. But if you have that, then obviously you can apply. I hope that answers Isha's questions.
All right, so just off that as well, she also had another question in a different area, which was as a food technologist. So again, just from the perspective of WA, is it just difficult to get permanent residency option in WA, or how many points does one need?
Okay, first and foremost, as of 3 days ago, the Western Australian state nomination team has said, thank you very much, but our quota is full. And then that becomes monumentally more difficult right now in the context of the fact that their quota is full. They had 1,004 and they've seemingly used up 603, and then there's some other stuff that's happening in the pipeline. So they've stopped that as of up until July 2022. Now, as and when that opens, whatever the new quota is, they've asked for more seats to be given. They've asked 5,000. Good luck in them getting 5,000. But if they get 5,000, happy days for me too. As and when that happens, then definitely pathways will be exciting. There'll probably be more occupations. Now, if you're a food technologist, don't know the occupation right off my list off my head, in the sense that food technologists, again, you got to have 1 year post-qualification experience all the time. Now, if you were a chemist or you were a biotechnologist and all of those occupations that seemingly related to food per se, and if you study something, you don't go out there and study that. You need to you study something along or around those areas, and those are the areas that becomes difficult. Like you go and do an MBA and you specialize in marketing, you can only be a marketing specialist. But then these are the ones that says, well, what are the PR pathways for a food technologist? I think they are very good, personally speaking, if that answers your question.
Okay. She also did have another question, but it wasn't. Okay. Yeah, it wasn't WA related. So her question pretty much was, my friend completed a Master's of Nursing in Sydney without accreditation, and is she still eligible to apply for PR under 190 and 491 as a registered nurse? Now, I know it's Sydney and it's not WA, so what I would also tell Isha is just to reach out to us directly. We could get you in touch with one of our migration agents from NSW, and then we can just take it from there. There was another question very much related to the topic here, Dharminder. So we have Danyaka.
Everybody is asking.
Yeah, 100% completely related to the topic. So Danyaka just was wondering, for 2 years of master's coursework, we get to apply for 3 years temporary graduate visa, and until when is this extension?
Sorry, I was looking at another 2 questions being rolled out. Somebody was asking about Sputnik and stuff like that. But what's the question again, so I can focus that again?
Yeah, so she was asking that for the current extension, which is for the 2 years master's coursework, do we get to apply for a 3 years temporary graduate visa, and until when is this extension?
So if you're studying now and if you're just about to finish, and you are definitely, when you are going to apply for your 485, you're definitely eligible for 3 years without fail.
All right, perfect. Okay. So yeah, that was pretty much all the questions. I think also, Danica, was just going off your slide where you did kind of mention the vaccines. She just added a couple more vaccines, which TJ just approved. Yeah.
She's added that. Bingo. Well done. Danica who added that?
Yes, it was Danica. Yeah.
And you can come down and work with me anytime.
Okay, perfect. All right, so I think that should be all we have. What I would also get you to do, Dharminder, is if you could just, leave your contact details on the chat box. So some of our guests who still have questions, they can just reach out to you directly.
Okay, don't you guys, okay, so you guys got no contact details of mine.
Yeah, I do have your phone number, but I think if you could just want to add your email address as well, that'd be great.
So now I just go into my chat box here, I would assume. Yeah. This is my email address, yeah?
Yeah, just your email address, and just your contact number as well.
Okay, here we go. Here we go. I'm going to put not my personal mobile number, I was just going to do, but I'm going to put my work mobile number.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so add. Was that all the questions? Damn, just really, I was hoping to jump into talking about different wonderful things about the world peace and all of that.
I think what does tend to happen in them is you'll get quite a few questions on your email. I think people do that quite often, sir.
Do they? Okay.
Yeah.
0406130. Let me just put this number, and then I can be out of here. Would that be it? Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, that should be good. So yeah, thank you everyone again for attending the session. I'm also just going to be dropping a link where you can go ahead, leave your review for this session. Your feedback again is very much appreciated. So don't miss out also on the next info sessions that will be taking place right after this fantastic one. I'll be going ahead and putting them up as well. Just a second.
We can take a few questions if you're actually getting something quite specific.
Yeah.
I got no problems with that. I mean, you are the ones who are moderating the time and all that. Sorry.
Yeah, we can still keep the floor open for the next 5 minutes or so. If anyone still has any other questions, I can see Danica has also confirmed that she isn't studying as of yet, but she is planning to this year.
Okay.
So I think she was just wondering about how long the whole extension of the temporary graduate visa would be.
I mean, it's exciting times, but they also the goalpost keeps moving all the time. So don't just think that, oh, okay, this is a permanent thing, or we're talking about concessions. We're talking about stuff that they can always change back at any point in time based on the immediate impact from these other students that's going to be coming through, how the economy is going to turn and change and all that kind of stuff, which you and I have got no control over. Yeah, just remember that. Yeah,
definitely. It's quite funny that every 2 weeks at this point, it's something new's up. So
it is. We're still in a good place. We're still in a good place.
Good place, yeah. Definitely.
So was that? Well, I mean, I'm happy to sit around.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Pretty much. I can see no one's put in anything as of yet. Again, guys, Dharminder's contacts are again on the chat box, so you can just go ahead. Feel free to send him an email, and he'll definitely get back to you.
And you know what? Can I just say, look, ask me anything. I really, I mean, if it's questions about, when I say anything,
yeah, very broad.
I mean, the whole migration and education sphere is huge.
Yeah.
But if it's pertaining to Western Australia, which I've been here for the last more than 30 years, feel free, ask me, call and check, and don't feel it's a stupid question. It's something that we will be surprised when you do ask. You say, you have this quizzical thing in your head, but we'll be able to maybe rectify that. If it's not me, I'll check with my colleagues from another state, which is what we do all the time at Aussizz.
Yep. Exactly. Perfect. Okay. Check. Yeah, I think we can go ahead and wrap this session up. Dharminder, thank you so much again for your time.
Awesome. Thank you.
I appreciate it. And thank you again, guys, for joining. And please just put up the links for the next few sessions. You all can come through and we'll see you there. All right. Thank you, Dharminder.
Yeah, no problem. I think this is when Charlene's going to press leave.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you again, Charlene. Appreciate your help.